Caboose Nursery, 0 to 75 in grade. It's over the mile. And this is number 1, Lose on Heights. So Sheen Murphy up for William Knight. Broke his maiden last time, went up to this trip at Southall, won well off 69 as well. And it was a straightforward win, ultimately. He broke well to be in touch. He asked to go and win the race. He obliged by 2 lengths, albeit he did hang left under pressure. He probably want to cut that out around here, but he's well drawn to be right up there. He looks a picture in the paddock, and Sheen Murphy's particularly adept at getting his horses in the right position, and that's usually the first 4. It's not hard to see why he'd be favourite, and a well-backed one at that as well. He's only up £5, and I thought he'd be very hard to beat in here. But they're all improving at different rates of knots, and perhaps Urgent Call could be that improver. Number 2, Jack Mitchell up for Charlie Johnston. He's making his nursery debut off 73, and he has improved, to be fair to him, with each run. He was on his debut over 7 furlongs. He improved from that to his second run over the same trip at Catterick, and then last time out at Southall, he was third to Exotic Baby, who runs later. And also this colt at that run had plenty of use made of him. He was pressing the lead. He just got done for a bit of toe when they sprinted after walking for half the race. The finishing speed percentage 108% or thereabouts in the last half of the race. He's drawn out wide. I thought he'd probably try and lead from there. It's a chance if he can come on further, and maybe he can just do better, but he does have it to do to topple this favourite. The next in sequence is number 6, Pepper's Fizz, who is just Pepper Fizz, I should say, who's just about to go past the winner's podium. Already had a go in nurseries, was down the field in a Newbury 0 to 70 at the end of August. Qualifying run's not bad, all over 6, but I thought she had an uphill task. Even dropped £3 immediately after last time. She's up another furlong. She's a watching brief. She did have an option of the nursery at Nottingham on Wednesday over an extended mile. They've chosen to come here instead. Number 4, that is Grand Pier. Edward Greytrex up for Warren Greytrex, nursery debutant. Another one, this one off 67. Only fair runs so far, all 3 in and around 7 furlongs. He's drawn the ace on the rails, so given he's shown pace, it wouldn't be too surprising to see him up there in the early parts. And maybe this test will suit a little bit better than the ones he's been taking in. Number 3 behind Hello Humphrey, I thought he had it to do, albeit that he's improved with his racing. He was second at 200 to 1 at Chelmsford in August over 7. He showed it wasn't a fluke next time when second at Wolverhampton. He's interesting that he's seemingly on the improve. He's unchanged on 68 as well. And as we can see, number 5's jockey, Chapman's Peak, Ross Orion, heading up the chute. His mount is probably not coming in the paddock, and it's probably going to be mounted out there, starting off nurseries off 64. So there's one to be shot at on what we've seen so far, and that is number 1, who looks a picture for William Knight. Lose on Heights, well backed throughout the course of the day as well. Up £5, but fancied to back up that win last time at Southall. Well, 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 we've got a very short price favourite on our hands in the form of Luzon Heights, who was around about a 13-8 on shot when I left for this meeting and has just absolutely collapsed in price. Urgent Call is interesting for the fact that he's one of a few nursery debutants who we likely haven't seen the best of. And if you're backing odds on favourites in nurseries who have won last time, it's a pretty quick route to the poorhouse. That doesn't mean to suggest that in this case that Luzon Heights isn't the right favourite, that he wouldn't be a short price. I just don't think he represents any kind of value personally. You're hearing nothing you're hearing nothing you haven't heard before, but it rings true. 5-2 on, I'm seeing of my latest show. You touch as low as 3s on. I think he's the most likely winner, but he just doesn't represent any value around, especially when you just don't know how good some of these nursery debutants are. You can have an idea based on the likes of Urgent Call, who was third at Southall last time behind Exotic Baby. If he was to win, then that would pay a handsome compliment to that colt a little bit later on. George Bowie's one who's in our 540. So in an hour's time, it'll be interesting to see. And but overall, the pace of the race is the main interest of it as well. Does Oisin Murphy just buck out and try and make all with him? Because other horses have made the pace as well. I fancy that plan A would be to try and get a lead. He might get a few different ones going forward. Chapman's Peak could be one of them. Grand Pier, I should say, has shown enough pace. Hello Humphrey, completely discounted in the market, but wasn't even when he was 200-1 at Chelmsford, or 20-1 on his latest run at Wolverhampton at 17-2. Apologies. Even so, it was in a small enough field, and it feels like he might be overpriced. But we're clutching at straws trying to find one against Luzon Heights. Urgent Call, dying to do second in. I think the market has it right, but let's see. Up to John Hunt for the nursery.
We're now set to go. They're off and racing. Ahead of them 1 mile, a little slow to go was Grand Pier. The other 5 jumped well enough and sorting out an early position. We've got Pepper Fizz coming through on the inside of Hello Humphrey, who's a bit keen, Hello Humphrey, and now he'll probably be quite pleased with a bit of company on his outside as well. Urgent Call, although Urgent Call just settled back, allowing Hello Humphrey just to get on with things. Off the pace, Luzon Heights in 5th place, Yellow Jacket. Ahead of him, Chapman's Peak, and just behind him is Grand Pier. So Hello Humphrey just racing a little over keenly, perhaps. In front on the rail, Urgent Call won't go by him, almost alongside, but won't go by at the moment. Pepper Fizz on the rail behind them, and then Chapman's Peak. And this 2x2 formation continues to the half-mile marker as Luzon Heights follows next alongside Grand Pier. Hello Humphrey still with the advantage then, less than half a mile left to go in the Tri-Unibet's new improved Acaboost nursery. Hello Humphrey leads them to the 3-pole just in front from Urgent Call, who has always just been happy to sit a half a length, a neck off the leader. Then on the outside comes Chapman's Peak on the rail, that's Pepper Fizz. Luzon Heights is next, at the moment buried away, but surely there'll be a gap for him to move through shortly, and then Grand Pier on the outside. Moving then inside the 2. Goes for a far run on Luzon Heights. Leader Hello Humphrey being tackled on all sides now. Here's Chapman's Peak with a promising run. Luzon Heights looks in a bit of bother here. Chapman's Peak goes on, storms on by a length and a half. Luzon Heights is not closing that gap. The line's coming up. Chapman's Peak, Luzon Heights getting going, but it's too late. Chapman's Peak beat Luzon Heights, and they were comfortably clear of Hello Humphrey in the other trio.
Chapman's Peak off the mark on nursery debut, a mark of 64. Has been justified by Ross Orion riding for Ed Dunlop. Ross are up for the first time at 11-1. If you fancy Chapman's Peak on debut, ultimately the slow pace set by the front runner Hello Humphrey, who was racing keenly in the lead, and the positioning of the favourite Luzon Heights behind has been the winning and losing. Chapman's Peak is able to have first crack, and Luzon Heights has had to close from a very difficult position as it turned out in the run. He didn't break particularly smartly, and from there on in with slow fractions up top, he was going to have to be by far the best horse in the race. I still think he emerges with credit, but Chapman's Peak just had to step up on some of that form that he'd been showing previously in his qualifying races, Tom, but he has a mark of 64 and a good positioning in the run, the winning of the day.
Yeah, and a pretty powerful turn of foot as well from Chapman's Peak. That was pretty decisive, really, seeing off Luzon Heights on the far side of the track. Challenge near side did the winner, Chapman's Peak, and a winning handicap debut for Ed Dunlop's Charge. Rach, that was a good performance.
It was, but that's what tends to happen in these nurseries. We had 4 horses, including the winner, who were making their handicap debuts, and literally you can have a bunch of duck eggs and then you run into one, and I think that was the case with Chapman's Peak. Early doors, Grand Pier was a bit slow away and was able to latch on to the back end of the field. Very, very keen was Hello Humphrey. The white colours up front wouldn't let Joey Haynes drop his hand, was giving him a lot to do. Credit for the horse, though, that he hung in for third, as a lot of the horses, the rest of the horses just petered out the back. Disappointing urgent call. Jack Mitchell had him in a really, really good position on the outside, but when push came to shove, there was no push or shove. He just went backwards, so maybe something amiss. They'll find that. Ross Orion has the winner, Chapman's Peak, in a really good position, sitting 2 wide, 2 back, which is the ideal position for Kempton, and I was actually a bit intrigued by Asheen's Murphy positioning of Luzon Heights, given that in a 6-runner race he put him in a pocket, and I appreciate, the joke is the Hills brothers used to do that in 3-runner races, but it's here when everybody sort of fans out and Asheen decides to go up the middle. You're going, what are you doing? But that gave Ross Orion the opportunity to just roll out and get a good march on the favourite. And to be fair, I think if they started at the same time, the winner would have still won, because he was instantaneous once Ross just gave him a couple of left-handers and sent him forward. He stepped up a lot when stepped up in trip last time at Beverly, so he's a half-to-super position for Caton Park, who loves it here at Kempton, finished 4th in the London Mile final last month, so he's bred to go well here over this trip and track.
Yeah, Luzon Heights coming back a little bit at the end, but the race had already been won. Pedigree, as you say, is there for Chapman's Peak to perform on this surface, and indeed he has. He made his debut at Kempton, actually, over 7 furlongs, but was too green, and it was never really going to be a winning ingredient for him doing that. And then 19 lengths behind at Salisbury. Heavy ground may not have suited, but as you say, it was better last time, and obviously a career best now. Yeah,
and he won't go up too much. He'll still be able to get into this grade. He was rated 64. He's in a 0 to 75. So actually, if they want to stay in this grade, he's not going to go out of it at all. But, I mean, these connections love to have the runners here. The owners do tend to come, and hopefully, if they are there, they have a good time.
Yeah, big time. And that was a good performance of 64. Likely to get a fair rise in the weights for that emphatic victory is Chapman's Peak. 11 to 1, Ross Orion, Ed Dunlop, Caton Park Stud Limited. Second was Luzon Heights, the 9 to 4 on favourite, beaten in the end. And the winning time for that was 1:43.44, 6.04 seconds above standard, significantly slower than the first race.
So for the second time in